usually clad in that familiar South Point red and white, but going with those white kits tonight. But in a sense, that's it's kind of the inverse. Typically, you talk about home whites; they're the designated visiting team, but they have some nice-looking jerseys too.
And for both of these teams, off to this early start with Western Alamance, they've been really aggressive.
Yeah,
had a pretty good chance there on goal a couple of moments ago, but good defense by South Point to get it out of that scorer's box.
Yeah, goalkeepers tonight for Western Alamance. It's the goalkeeper Camden Markey, and on the other side for South Point, Isabella Goodwin. They call her Bella Goodwin. Always these matches seems to come down to defense for South Point. Goodwin this season with 36 saves. She's had a strong season, and that's not counting some of the other minutes she's had as well.
South Point, a good goal-scoring club, not a great goal-scoring club. You mentioned it, defense is the name of their game. They do have capable goal scorers on their team. Does South Point, led by Matt Creel, but defensively is where South Point shines. They limit their opponents on the offensive end and come up with those timely goals.
Yeah, those keys for, South Point, playoff tested, ship ready. Well, they've had their, even in the words of their head coach, talking a couple days ago, as we did with a lot of coaches this week, Rich Lewandowski for South Point, and he discussed that playoff run. They certainly have seen everything in the playoffs. They feel like they're ready now to finally seal the deal, win one of these things. And, of course, you mentioned it, Damian, Mackenzie Krill, they call her Mac, and certainly she'll be on the attack tonight, as we're just over 5 minutes in, still scoreless between Western Alamance and South Point, the opener of another busy weekend to crown some champions on the women's soccer side of things. Such a busy time right now anyway, with so many champions soon to be crowned in softball and lacrosse and baseball. Busy time in the NCHSAA. We did mention the weather, too, at the start. Delayed by 40 minutes and change due to some thunder in the area. That cell that was just to the north has started to move east, and consequently we should be good to go rest of the night. And tomorrow looks as good as it's looked all week. It's been a rainy week here in Charlotte, and it's supposed to be in the mid-70s, upper 70s tomorrow, sunshine all day, so no worries for weather tomorrow.
A nice pitch ahead there for South Point. Phoebe Smith. Western Alamance able to handle it and get it back on the South Point side of the field.
South Point with Isabella Goodwin. She'll be relied upon tonight, clad in her yellow goalkeeper kit tonight. It's the pink kit for Western Alamance. On the other side for Camden Markey.
You saw there for South Point trying to utilize that speed. Jayana Watkins trying to get her out in space, one-on-one with the defender.
For Markey this season, the starting keeper for Western Alamance, just a sophomore, 93 saves, only 12 goals have gotten by her in 2025, regular and postseason combined. Of course, we know the story with Mackenzie Krill for South Point. That story is obvious. She's the one that jumps off the sheet as soon as you start glancing at some of these players on the pitch. But outside of Krill, of course, another being Phoebe Smith. Smith and Krill make for quite a potent duo, Damian, for South Point. And then on the other side, a bit more balanced for Western Alamance. Not just Lee and Athlas, the KC we mentioned, but also Thomas, 23 goals on the season. Kaffenberger with 21. We'll have a free kick now, just over 32 minutes remaining in this opening half.
A free kick here for Western Alamance. Opportunity for the Warriors to try to get into that scorer's box and put pressure on that South Point defense. So far in this match, Western Alamance really aggressive offensively, have played
and still scoreless.
I think so far both teams trying to read the defense, and now opportunity on the pitch ahead. Smith can't catch up to it.
Phoebe Smith, and actually rolled almost back in the vicinity of Smith. And then there to get that away was Granowski for Western Alamance. For South Point, he's a couple of years, talks about Phoebe Smith D and says she's good at breaking down a player, good at seeing how a player is slowing down or speeding up. And she really just sees success when she and her teammates, specifically on the South Point side of things, talking about she and Hannah Throfstrup, how when they start working together, they can really connect on the sidelines. So that's something to watch tonight, that duo. As here again is Phoebe Smith, that one booted away by Western Alamance.
Corner kick opportunity here for South Point, and you mentioned Phoebe Smith, and we talk about experience as one of the keys to the match. And Smith, one of those seniors for South Point who has been in this situation, trying to get over that hump and win a state championship.
Credit a moment ago to Mia Napier to get in there and disturb that from Phoebe Smith. Another corner kick now for the Red Raiders of South Point. This one from Taylor Culbertson. Lewandowski said that he thinks his girls are ready for this. I don't think he said that they wanted to wait until Saturday. That was part of the conversation with a lot of coaches earlier this week in our conversations with about 5 of the 8 total coaches leading these teams about, would you rather play Friday or would you rather play Saturday, depending on where you're located and depending on when you finished up. If you had a particularly grueling match, the last one to get in on Tuesday night or not, the opinion can vary, but Lewandowski was up front about it and said, I think they're happy to be playing tonight, talking about his South Point team. They didn't want to wait anymore to try to finally win one of these state titles.
And South Point played on Saturday last season. It was sunny out, about 83, 84 degrees, perfect weather in last season's state championship game.
It was almost down there in the attacking third, close to Goodwin. It never really got in the vicinity of the attacking third area, but it was close. That ball now rests on the far side. Looks like Western Alamance there now to get this one back into play. Just over 28 minutes left in this opening half. We're still scoreless. South Point defeated Lake Norman Charter to get in. Western Alamance, each team got a 1-0 win to get into tonight's match, as Western Alamance got it 1-0 over Dixon. Booted now by McKenna Corum. South Point looks to control now. They'll get this back to Isabella Goodwin.
And Kaylee Lee, the fantastic freshman for Western Alamance, with the foul. It's going to give the possession back over to South Point. Credit to Western Alamance coming in here first time trying to win that state championship. They haven't been bashful. They've been aggressive in trying to create goal-scoring opportunities.
Lee, just a freshman, like Damian said, 31 goals and almost 100 total points on the season. That point tally you get there, especially if you're good at scoring and distributing. Lee, 31 goals, 37 assists. Down, back up quick is the C in KC. That's Callie Athas.
You see the collision between K and C, and the officials saw the collision up top and wanted to make sure that Athas is okay. Athas waving him off like, hey, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But you want to err on the side of caution, and that's actually in the handbook. And I was reading that actually about 30 minutes prior to this match. We had time to kill with the weather delay.
We did.
And it mentioned something about, when officials see any type of head contact, you have to signal to the sideline, hey, someone has to take a look at this player. They have to come out.
Yeah, concussions, such a big part of the conversation in soccer. Of course, we've seen most of the attention, if not all of it, in football, especially at the professional level, but even college football, high school football. Again, this is rolling in the area of Phoebe Smith. But again, down there to get in the way of it is Emma Granuski for Western Alamance.
Yeah, good job there from Granuski to knock it off. South Point player to get the possession over to Western Alamance, who give it right back.
South Point so anxious for a title, trying to win their first ever NCHSAA championship tonight. Cuthbertson had a look, chased down now by Charlotte Smith. Back and rolls towards Hannah Throftrup. Throftrup picks it back up at the midline. Gets it to a teammate up towards Claire Hawk. Hawk will give it a boot. And that one rolls towards Camden Markey, who controls without a problem. 26 minutes left in the opening half, still scoreless.
Good piece of dribbling by several South Point players to just to give themselves an opportunity there. And a long shot there from South Point. Had no chance really from Claire Hawk, but you want to try to get your boot on the ball to put some pressure on the opponent's goalkeeper.
And just want to try something out, such still somewhat early stages of this match. You're the first match out here on this big state title weekend, so sometimes it's a bit of a feeling out process. Talking about Hawk a moment ago, the junior, 6 goals on the season, over 1,200 minutes. In fact, 6 goals and 6 assists for Hawk. This is, again, it's almost a case of when it's going to happen, not so much if, but you know, the Red Raiders of South Point, 3rd straight year in this 3A state final, and of course falling in last spring's state championship game on penalty kicks to that Jacksonville team. My goodness, what a match that was. Jacksonville, even Lewandowski, Damian, he said that Jacksonville was probably the best team we have faced. And even that match, because it went to penalty kicks, it told them that any team can win in any state final. That's just something that's tough to prepare for. He even said that Lewandowski did that he felt like that was going to be a different match against Jacksonville. He could pick it up in the warm-ups. He said that the way that the Jacksonville girls were striking the soccer ball was different. He just kind of knew that they were going to be in for a fight even during warm-ups.
And again, for South Point, you've been in this situation. You've been in the state championship.
Right.
So, and you've also been in a state championship where you got down.
Yeah.
Where it was close. You just couldn't pull it out in the end. And you have a bunch of seniors on your roster, so you can draw off that experience and the experience of head coach Lewandowski. And, again, when does it all come together?
Right.
For South Point? Is tonight the night?
Yeah, Jacksonville won the 3A title last season. Before that, Dee mentioned it earlier, Eastern Alamance, and then in 2022, late Norman Charter.
And we called all those games.
Yeah, we called Eastern Alamance in Jacksonville. So happy to be back for another year. Still in Matthews. It's our longest stay so far at least in our window, Damian, at a championship venue. Kind of bounced around in Greensboro. Then it went just outside of Greensboro at Brown Summit. And we've gotten into a bit of a routine here in Matthews over the last year and a half now.
This is a nice
It is.
Sportsplex. Very nice. Good job, North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
Yes. A lot of coaches praising the pitch here and the way that all these championships have been given the proper venue.
And now the official is calling Mackenzie Creel, 2 of the star players, Creel and Napier, calling them over. Like, hey, you guys got to cut it out.
Free kick upcoming for Emma Granuski for Western Alamance. Granuski with 4 goals on the season, 3 assists.
Chance here.
Yeah, that rolls to the hands of Isabella Goodwin.
That's a good job of locating that soccer ball by Goodwin, coming off of her goalkeeper spot to get to that one.
Yeah, Isabella Goodwin, the self-described and I should say, anointed #1 goalkeeper for this South Point team. Even Lewandowski says she's always going to play against the big teams, and even Rich calls her just a next-level keeper, talking about Isabella Goodwin. And even he projects her to play at the next level, Damian, and of course that's all depending on if she wants to or not. But he
and
thinks
we've come across that quite a bit.
Yeah.
In high school athletics, it's players that win state championships that
right.
are really good players who don't want to play in college. They
sure.
just want to be, college students. They have an opportunity to play, but they get academic scholarships
right.
and choose to just be a student. And you mentioned Smith being able to play at another level
right.
in bigger matches gives her a chance to play at the collegiate level.
Yeah, Isabella Goodwin has that chance if she chooses to pursue it. And then you've got some of these student athletes who have lucrative
I was
career
begging
goals.
for a college scholarship when
right.
I was in high school,
yeah.
begging. Shouts out to Virginia State. They answered my prayer.
They did. Yeah, Damian Banks, former cornerback at Virginia State. So yeah, we've got a former player in the booth. Always, can't forget about that. You ever kicked the soccer ball around too, Damian? I've never asked you that before.
I've played
right.
recreationally. I didn't play.
I did too early. Yeah,
in college or in
right.
high school.
I was about 6
years recreationally. Old.
Sure.
But fun fact. My first job after graduating from college was at a soccer and lacrosse company. I worked there for 5 years.
Okay.
In Hillsborough, North Carolina.
Hillsborough.
All the soccer fans watching and listening know about Eurosport and sports endeavors.
Sure.
In Hillsborough. That's where all the high school teams get their uniforms from.
That's
their uniforms and equipment.
Just learned something new. What was it, 5, 6 years, still learning things new. That's a good.
It's my first job out of college, man. I could not find a job with a sociology degree.
That's right.
So yeah. I had to do something.
Yeah.
Insert sports endeavors.
Yeah, even.
And that's how I learned about lacrosse. It was a soccer and lacrosse company.
Right, even a communications degree. It's tough getting that one to tread some water too. Backing up now is Markey, the keeper for Western Alamance, as we are 20 minutes into this opening half of the opening match of state title weekend. This is the 3A match between the Warriors of Western Alamance and the Red Raiders of South Point. No call.
And neither keeper seriously tested so far, but I expect fireworks soon. Both of these teams, pretty much, they're playing their games right now in the match. South Point, methodical, wants to pick their spots. Western Alamance is foot on gas pedal at all times.
Yeah, Samantha Lewandowski, you might have seen her right there in the middle of the pitch, kind of doubled over a bit. Soccer ball went right to the gut, right to the rib cage, and just had the wind knocked out of her momentarily. She'll take a couple moments to get back going, but the best thing to do there is get right back into the flow of the match. It's really more incidental contact than anything.
That one will knock the wind out of you for 10, 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm. That's what we saw there.
And again, for Western Alamance, for this being their type of game so far, chance here for the Warriors.
Getting in the middle of it to mess that up was Grace Maynard.
Yeah, good defense for South Point in the back end.
Now booted forward by Phoebe Smith. There to cut it off is Emma Granowski. No call. Back up is Maynard again. She's been active last 30 seconds. Callie Athis recollects. Athis trying to split defenders. And picked up by McKenna Corum. Possibly a through lane here, depending on where it goes.
4 defenders back for Western Alamance.
Skirts past Alice Bass. Bass will attempt to run it down. Can Bass get the edge on McKenna Corum? This will benefit South Point here.
Miscommunication there defensively for Western Alamance. They thought that, the ball was going to be easily possessed. And out of the blue,
corner kick.
Bridget Booth created that opportunity for South Point, just being relentless to the ball.
Lewandowski, the corner kick for South Point.
Dodging a bullet there. The Warriors now, they get on the offensive.
Yeah, Kaffenberger, first one to touch it after the corner kick. And trying to produce something for Western Alamance. A collision, no call. Down and back up quick, Lucy Rodenberger.
You know, sometimes you just have to get in front of.
Burst of speed for Callie Athos. That's where we saw.
You don't have to do much on defense.
No.
You just have to get in front of the opposing player, slow them up so that the ball just rolls out of bounds.
Right.
And, you know, you retain possession.
Isabella Goodwin with the goal kick upcoming. Just under 17 minutes to go in this opening half. Still scoreless in the 3A title fight.
There's Charlotte Smith checking out on the ball. Game for Emma Boyd for South Point.
Good battle that time between Canna Kaffenberger of Western Alamance and L. Louise Blee for South Point. That's going to give Western Alamance their corner kick.
The first time in this match that both Smith sisters, Charlotte and Phoebe, not on the pitch together. Charlotte out, Ellis Boyd in, but corner kick opportunity here for the Warriors. See if they can make it count.
Kaylee Lee, 31 goals on the season, the same as Athos with the corner kick. That one's behind the goal and offline on that corner try from Lee, and South Point will have possession.
And Lee tried to bend that one and finesse it.
Yeah.
Hits the side of the net. Missed opportunity there to at least get a shot on goal, potentially, for Western Alamance.
South Point, we mentioned it in our keys to the match. We feel like they've been tested here in the postseason and are prepared for this one against Western Alamance. Even Rich Lewandowski, head coach for South Point, said the road to this match, it's been tough. Second round, they played North Davidson. Then they had to play East Lincoln. They even thought they might meet East Lincoln later in the playoffs instead of how early they did. But, you know, they got the second round started with Crest. They've seen all the good teams, so even Lewandowski said, nothing should surprise us. We've played strong forwards, strong midfield. We're ready to finally do this third straight year in this 3A title match.
And South Point came in on a roll last season as well.
Mm-hmm.
Higher seed last season, but this year had to work a little bit extra. But sometimes those are the things that you have to go through to finally get over that hump. And you know, South Point trying to do that tonight. Now Charlotte Smith and Phoebe Smith out of the match for South Point.
Just under 70 degrees here on this Friday night in Matthews, North Carolina. It'll be close to 80 tomorrow and nice and sunny. Getting ready to have a big warm-up here in this, really across the state, but especially here in the more westerly part of the state. It'll be into the mid to high 80s this time next week as we get into the month of June. And finally, we get our first big and long-lasting warm-up of the 2025 year with summer right around the corner. June 15th is particularly a big day for a lot of these players in terms of when they have to make their recruiting commitment, which school they're going to play for. So a big middle of the month of June is coming, even for the players that win their titles, Damian. They've got the next step in their future to think about here in a couple of weeks. You don't want to, put the cart before the horse, as they say, but it's a lot to think about these next couple of weeks for a lot of these young women out here on the pitch.
And a lot of talent in the Sportsplex this weekend. Top-level talent from across the state of North Carolina. You mentioned decisions. Say that 3 times without stuttering.
Right.
But again, I've come across, in more recent years, not only soccer but other sports, athletes deciding, not to play at the next level when given that opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see what these young ladies choose moving forward. But, tonight, first and foremost, they want to complete the mission of this season by bringing home the state championship.
That's what it's all about. As we stand at about 12 and a half minutes left in this opening half, so we're nearing the 30-minute mark of this opening half, still scoreless. But one thing also that was brought up a lot, it seems like this is really a familiar talking point coming into every championship match on no matter the sport, but specifically so with the soccer state finals, both in May and November, but coaches trying to prep. Same situation for each of these teams. It's not the easiest match. It might be one of, if not the toughest match all season to actually prepare for. We asked Rich Lewandowski about this earlier in the week, head coach for South Point, and we asked him, not really point blank, but we did query him and ask him, as this one is rolled directly to Camden Markey. She had a teammate right in front, so she had a little mini assist there, no problem with this match still scoreless, the 3A match, and just a little over 11 and a half minutes left before halftime. But we asked Lewandowski, how did you prep for Western Alamance, considering the fact that they weren't on the schedule back in the regular season? So it makes it even tougher when you haven't had the chance to play your finals opponent. But of course, that's a rarity anyway, to actually see a team in the finals that you've seen once, if not more, in the regular season. And he said, how we prepared, how did we prepare? He said he went in to our very own NFHS network, and he found some footage. He wasn't really quite sure, Rich was, how much that footage was going to help, because a lot of the matches he watched for Western Alamance weren't the most competitive, but he tries to talk with other coaches who have faced Western Alamance, and even he joked and said, look, at this point in the year, no one's really sharing any videos, so that's about as good as I could do.
But, you know, you may not have that advantage of playing your opponent, but you just play your match. If you're South Point, and you play your match if you're Western, and you let the chips fall where they may, and you know what style best suits your players and your team, and what is most effective and will potentially get that win that you want at the end of the season. So you may not have game film, you may not be able to prep for your opponent, you may not be able to scout them, but play your match, and then you let the chips fall where they may. Here comes more substitutions as Phoebe Smith checks back in for South Point. But matches like this, where both teams are trying to figure each other out while simultaneously trying to impose their will, you can't lose your focus. When you lose your focus, that's when a flash goal happens in a match, and that can really put you on your back heels.
That's the brilliance of Phoebe Smith. Got right back into the match and immediately to work. Also saw Jayana Watkins out there too for the Red Raiders. Watkins, another player we'll talk more about in the second half. That one glances past her, and up for the taking at mid-pitch. Down and back up is Emma Chamra. Hustled down by McKenna Corum. And then stopped by Maynard, near side. So far, Western Alamance leading what's been obviously a low on offense opening half. We've yet to see a goal scored.
Well, that was an ambitious touch attempt by South Point. Maynard can't connect. Now see Western Alamance again. A lot of this first half has been played on South Point's part of the pitch.
Just 4 total shots combined right now, Damian, in this one. 2 combined shots on goal. That's 1.
But nothing that was threatening, side. Nothing that came close to hitting the back of the net.
3 saves for South Point, 1 for Western Alamance. So if nothing else, the Red Raiders have stopped more of their opportunities. 2 fouls aside, 2 corner kicks aside. As we've got right now 8 minutes to go before intermission. Looks like this will be no problem. Back to Isabella Goodwin.
See Goodwin quick to come off her spot to get to that one. And sometimes as a goalie, you don't see a lot of action. You haven't been put under game pressure. It's good to move around and not get complacent back there. Keep your head in the match.
South Point said they had a couple of injuries coming into this one, but largely A-OK. Natalie Peabody, Carrie Gozer, and Carson Lohman were the 3 injured players listed prior to this match for South Point. Western Alamance seems to be at pretty full strength, but not bad to only have 3 missing out of a pretty full roster for the Red Raiders. 3 straight years in this 3A championship match, and still looking for that ring to cap off another big season for the team from Belmont, North Carolina. 7 minutes to go in this opening half.
You see South Point methodically working to western side of the pitch, retaining that possession chance here for a side out. Try to put pressure on Cam Markey between the posts for the Warriors of Western Alamance.
L. Louise Blee will throw this in for South Point. Back on now, Mackenzie Krill and Charlotte Smith, 2 of the best for the Red Raiders, hustling back onto the pitch with time growing short first half. Also coming off now for Western Alamance, that's Mia Napier. And Napier in, or out rather, Kennedy Vaughn is in.
Napier will get a breather. Will have good defender, gritty for Western Alamance.
Yeah, I was going to say Napier as the surname is perfect. If you're if you're gritty and tough, reminds me of Jack Napier from Batman.
Just from the first half,
Axis
watching
Chemicals.
Napier play, she plays with an attitude defensively.
Definitely so. She's not quite Jack Nicholson in 1989's Batman, but have to watch her for the rest of this match. She might have some tricks up her sleeve just like the Joker. Everybody forgets before Joaquin Phoenix, it was Jack Napier turning into the Joker. That's the old school superhero lore right there. This will roll back towards the always present Phoebe Smith. Smith played close by McKenna Corum. Phoebe Smith, though.
Being aggressive.
Yeah, you and I are thinking the same thought. Yeah, she's
trying to make a move, understanding that, hey, we could try to sneak a goal in here before the half. We take that momentum
right
into the halftime break, actually have a lead, in a state championship match.
A lot of the South Point fans a little up in arms about what they thought should have been a call moments ago, but that's typical of these state finals matches. Kim Montgomery for Audrey Kell. We'll see them tomorrow night. In fact, by this time tomorrow, we should be
2 teams that are
crowning a champion.
Quite possibly disgusted with each other at this point.
Right, but and of course we'll get into
Ashley and Audrey Kell.
We'll get into all that obviously tomorrow. It's almost we almost don't want to spoil any of it, but Kim Montgomery for Audrey Kell, she had a great turn of phrase about all of this, and I won't divulge it completely because again you don't want to kind of put everything out there until it's really game time, but she basically said, look, these matches, it's a lot of thrill, but also a lot of agony, a lot of nerves, a lot of pressure. You kind of take the good with the bad. You're happy to be in the state title match, but at the same time, a lot of stress that comes along with
definitely
being a
stressful, but
possible champion.
If you can come through and win it, you'll live on in lore.
That's it.
I was never able to experience a state championship as a player, a couple of conference championships in high school and in college, but, a state or national championship, you're living in the books of history forever. So, you deal with that pressure while you're playing in that match, but if you can win it, you'll keep those memories and your teammates with you forever.
Same reason my dad still shows me pictures of him at Bassett High School in Virginia playing basketball, playing football, pictures that are 50 years old. And
come on, now
they're still.
Don't do that to your pops.
Well, he's,
Why would you age your father like that?
My dad just turned 70 in April, and those 50-year-old photos, they're as relevant to him now.
Was he a dashing young man?
He was. If you know Michael Kelso from that 70s show, that's what my dad looked like.
Oh, really?
Mid-70s. Had the haircut and everything.
Chance here for Western.
Never really got back to Goodwin there that time, D. 2.5 minutes to go, but she was ready for it in case. So we're scoreless. Are we going to remain scoreless once we get to the end of the first 40 minutes of regulation between these two teams? We'll find out. 2:15 remaining first half. A little bit of hand fighting there, really nothing more than that between Mackenzie Krill and Kennedy Vaughn, who came in recently. Watkins was in the middle of that and then booted away by Granowski. South Point will have it, under 2 minutes to go first half.
And both teams now trying to take more chances out there. Trying to get a goal in before we get to the halftime break. Run out here for the Warriors.
That one off to the left of the goal, never challenging Goodwin. On the shot by Kaffenberger. Under 90 seconds left before the break.
Just both teams playing their game in this first half. But
That's
again,
right.
Offensively for South Point, they're not a high goal-scoring team anyway. So this is to be expected. For Western, they've scored about 23 more goals on the season than South Point. So Western a little bit more explosive offensively. But both teams, really good defense in this first half, keeping each other at bay.
Yeah, Western Alamance, you bring up a great point, Damian, as usual. They, in the entire postseason leading up to this match, they only gave up 2 total goals, and that came in.
They've had a dominant season.
Right, in the second to last and third to last game of the postseason run, they gave up a goal to Cape Fear and 1 to Jacksonville. Of course, that match went to extra time, and ultimately Western Alamance got the win in penalty kicks and obviously shut out Dixon, but before that, 5-0 over Richlands, 9-0 over Triton. We've come to the end of the first half. Western Alamance and South Point, the defense of the Warriors, it's still there, but South Point, they haven't allowed a goal either. The 3A title match is scoreless after the first 40 minutes of this one, and we've reached halftime, and we want to remind you, you're watching live coverage of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Women's Soccer Championships here on the NFHS Network. NFHSnetwork.com/NCHSAA. It's your destination for the most comprehensive coverage of North Carolina High School Athletic Association Championship action, from live games to full game replays, even highlights. It's all there at NFHSnetwork.com/NCHSAA. And you can relive all the incredible moments from tonight's matchup. You can relive those on demand at NFHSnetwork.com. A digital copy also available for purchase. You can click the digital copy button under the event video player to download tonight's broadcast directly to your device. And before we step away for halftime, also remind you that tonight's game is available for all subscribers. You might even be watching this match on your Apple or Android device right now, but you can download, if you haven't already, the NFHS mobile app.
I got it. I've downloaded it.
You got it? Me too.
3 years ago.
Yeah, Damian's ahead of the game. He doesn't even need this promo. You can download it from the App Store or the Google Play Store tonight to start watching live and on-demand matches and games wherever you are. We're scoreless through the first 40 minutes between Western Alamance and South Point, the 3A championship match. We'll come back to Matthews, North Carolina in a little bit and get you ready for the second half. Stay with us.
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is caught!
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
First ever.
A 2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is caught!
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
From half court! Jumping for joy.
First ever.
A 2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is caught!
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
From half court! Jumping for joy.
First ever.
A 2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is caught!
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
From half court! Jumping for joy.
First ever.
A 2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is caught!
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
From half court. Jumping for joy.
First ever.
A 2-on-1. Oh!
Did he bring it in? He did!
It is
This presentation of the NFHS Network is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
From half court. Jumping for joy.
We're back in the second half of the 3A title match between Western Alamance and South Point. Welcome back, everyone. Corey Hodges, Damian Banks, and our team here with you. Lights on, and it's past sunset now here just south of Uptown Charlotte. Again, the site of our title matches. 3 tomorrow. We'll start at 11 a.m. tomorrow, but we've got just one tonight and already one half in, and somewhat of a sluggish first half, but even some thoughts right now, checking out J. Mike Blake on High School OT on X. I was checking out some of his analysis from that first half as well, Damian, and he brings up a good point. Maybe that weather delay had a bit of an impact on how this match has gotten started.
That's a good point. We really didn't get into that. You get hyped up and ready for a match, and then you have to go in for about 45 minutes. So then you have to come back out, warm up, get yourself back psyched, and pumped for the match. So it's a good point there.
Yeah, so almost our second analyst tonight. Try to get as many avenues as you can to be able to kind of filter some of these matches through. But a lot of attention on this one. First match of championship weekend and all of that. But still scoreless as we're now into this second half. It'll remain those two keepers, Isabella Goodwin for South Point and Camden Markey for Western Alamance. And that one rolled to the aforementioned Goodwin. She has it. And Goodwin coming up with 4 saves in that first half.
That was a good pitch ahead there by Kaffenberger, finding Kaylee Lee, but Lee, no room for a decent shot on goal for Western Alamance.
L. Louise Blee for the Red Raiders. Now Taylor Culbertson. Lights always illuminate things differently. Everything seems to gain in tension, and everything gets just a bit more frantic and exciting after the lights come on. That one lingered for a moment, never got back towards Markey. Luckily, her back line there, 2 defenders in front of it to allow it to never reach Markey in front of the Western Alamance goal.
So you got to have a good back line defense if you're going to be successful as a goalkeeper. You can only stop so many shots on goal.
Yeah.
That back line defense makes it possible for you to be more aggressive as a goalkeeper as well.
Largely, this is, South Point even describes Phoebe Smith and Mackenzie Krill as our team kind of goes how they go. So
we hadn't heard
a
bunch from Mackenzie Krill so far.
That's why I bring it up.
Phoebe Smith has been in the action. Hadn't heard a ton from Mackenzie Krill. She's been battling with Napier throughout that first half. So Napier frustrating Mackenzie Krill just a bit.
That'll be a penalty. Kaffenberger goes down. In the area was Louise Blee. It'll be a free kick upcoming for the Warriors of Western Alamance. Free kick now will be overseen by Allison Thomas. Thomas, 23 goals on the season and the same number of assists. 69 total points in the regular and postseason combined, almost a 70 combination of that scoring and distributing.
Textbook defense of that free kick there from South Point. To turn it back, get the ball on the offense.
Charlotte Smith will get it near side, and Smith, Watkins up ahead, going to work. Bounce back towards Krill. We now see Smith and Krill close to each other. Off of Watkins, as we're about 5 minutes into the second half.
Watkins frustrated just a bit there. Claire Hawk. Hawk has that cast on the left forearm and hand. Still out there being aggressive defensively.
The Hickory match was one that stood out for South Point especially. Now the Red Raiders went on to win that one 2-0 to set up the match with Lake Norman Charter. But you can kind of draw a comparison or two, Damian, to what we've seen in the first half, especially from Mackenzie Krill, somewhat to that Hickory match. Of course, as we say that, Krill starting to get in the middle of it along with Gianna Watkins. But Hickory was an interesting match because Mackenzie Krill and Phoebe Smith, they usually play each so well off of each other match after match, but those two were off, in the words of Rich Lewandowski for South Point, off in the first 10 minutes of that Hickory match. And so Lewandowski actually pulled Mackenzie Krill out of the match and told her, you got to figure it out. And of course, eventually she did. So Lewandowski isn't afraid to pull even his star player out if he senses maybe she's not fully in the rhythm of the match early.
Well, Krill right now just getting lost in the sauce out there. Not really involved offensively for South Point. But again, Napier doing a really good job just shadowing her up and down the pitch.
Yeah. Time for South Point's back line to try to pitch in. That one misses just to the right of the goal on the effort from Kennedy Vaughn, with Isabella Goodwin keeping both eyes locked on Vaughn's slow roller. And now Goodwin will have the goal kick.
Vaughn, that was a pretty good chance there. Just couldn't get an accurate boot on the ball. Chance here again for the Warriors. Nice move.
Oh, it might be one-on-one. Instead, the defender comes in, Krill, to disturb that developing effort that was right in front for the dangerous Kaylee Lee. If Krill doesn't latch on to Lee, Damian, it might be 1-0.
And do it without fouling. Now you're just going to get the corner kick.
Correct, no penalty kick.
Instead of the penalty kick. And that's very important.
That's a huge change of things, that's right.
Still a chance here for Western.
Corner kick from Thomas. That one took a bad bounce. It's going to be in the territory of Watkins, who takes over.
Lewandowski calling Watkins usually the fastest player on the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, she played in the fall with Lewandowski. Almost a collision. Isabella Goodwin. Those are always dangerous plays to make, especially when you have an incoming attacker.
Super dangerous.
Kaylee Lee almost there to collide, but fortunately no contact, and Goodwin saves the moment again.
And not even a collision. If Goodwin trips or falls or loses her footing, you're potentially giving up the match's first goal.
Hannah Kaffenberger.
Western trying to keep that pressure on the defense of South Point. Exerting a lot of effort here in the first 10 minutes here of the second half.
Now, it goes back to our late comments from the first half about the scoring prowess of Western Alamance, kind of their calling card. Meanwhile, if you throw out an 8-0 win over Crest in the playoffs for South Point, otherwise it was 2-0 over North Davidson. East Lincoln went to extra time. Hickory 2-0, Lake Norman Charter 1-0. It's not like it was on the Western Alamance side of things with big scoring numbers. It's just a different way these two teams are still able to reach the same result. Each team is here in the 3A state final, but they got here in different ways. One more offensive-minded, one more defensive-minded. Western Alamance and South Point respectively.
And again, with South Point, it only takes a goal or most of the time 2 goals to win matches.
Right.
They don't rely on, beating teams 6-7, 8-0 as some teams often do in high school soccer. So with South Point, you play your defensive game, you wait for your opportunity, and you strike, and then that really puts your opponent in a bad spot because now they're pressing, trying to penetrate your defense, and then the match can get away from them.
These state final matches can change in the blink of an eye. So much pressure on these teams. Sometimes to try to not make a mistake. And usually when you're trying not to make a mistake, that's when you're more prone to do so. It's just all a part of the tapestry that's all on its own. The final match of the season with the winner taking a state title back to their respective hometown. Changes everything. This is run down by Callie Athis. Athis ready to go. Strikes it and scores it. Callie Athis giving Western Alamance the lead over South Point in the 3A match with 29:46 to go in regulation.
And the play was made by Athis, but the pitch ahead, getting Athis out in space. And Athis, again, Western has multiple goal scorers with 20 goals. So Athis, one of those goal scorers with 31 goals on the season. So you have to be aware of where she is on the pitch. And Athis just gets out in space, makes a move on the defender. Long distance shot with Goodwin really being out of position. Didn't really think that Athis was going to try that shot.
Yeah.
And finds the back of the net.
Yeah, Callie Athis said coming into this match, when you go farther, these matches, they're just harder to get. How about Athis, who was speaking the truth coming into this one, almost prophetic in a way. Look at how difficult this match has been so far, but it's Athis who strikes for the 32nd time this season. And right now, that's the most important goal of 2025 for Western Alamance, to give them a 1-0 lead in the 3A fight.
And a lot of time left in the match, but if you're South Point, at what point do you start pressing and looking at the clock and trying to take more chances offensively?
Western Alamance was up front about it. Camden Brooks, one of the best guys you'll talk to in terms of soccer coaches, always gives you a nice long interview, and he's really down to earth as this one rolls back towards L. Louise Blee. He's in a tussle now, but
right now the speed of Western Alamance getting to the defense of South Point, getting behind that back line these last couple of minutes.
Yeah, these Lady Warriors were up front about it. The boys, they've already won a state title. We want one too. It was Western Alamance under the same Camden Brooks that is leading this women's team tonight that won the state final in November on the men's soccer side of things. So they want a soccer
the boys
sweep.
soccer team, they're in the stands cheering on
Absolutely.
the Western ladies.
Corner kick now for the Warriors. That one could have made it 2-0. Sometimes those might actually get through. In that case, from Kaffenberger, just slides to the right. Looks like another
corner kick situation here, as Western is really putting the pressure on South Point. South Point having to try to withstand this barrage of offense these last couple of minutes here from Western Alamance.
Allison Thomas now with the corner kick. Yeah, shots are adding up, Damian. That's now 6-1, the advantage in shots for the Warriors. South Point able to withstand this latest flurry of opportunities, and now they'll take back over. Just over 27 minutes left in regulation. South Point, their deficit is just a goal.
It's still only a 1-0 deficit for South Point, so you don't have to go crazy just yet. Plenty of time left here in the second half to come up with the equalizer.
Jayana Watkins again in the middle of it. This one up for the taking. Looks like the taker will be Isabella Goodwin. Goodwin, Damian, praised for her good side-to-side movement. Lewandowski loves her good hands, good goal kicker, solid keeper, communicates out of the back. She's got everything you want in a good goalkeeper. Talking about Isabella Goodwin.
The goal that Goodwin surrendered to Athens, that was just a heck of a shot. Long range, opposite side of the net. It finds the corner, the back corner, that right side to put the Warriors on the board.
Yeah, got it into the top right of the goal from Callie Athis.
At some point, again, the crowd for South Point, they've been here before. So does the doubt start to creep into the crowd, which seeps over to the players? As a player, when I played, I really didn't hear the crowd too much. So you want to stay focused on the match. If you're South Point, again, plenty of time left, 25, 40 and counting here in the second half.
There's another corner kick now. That one crosses in front of the goal on corner kick number 6 of the match for the Warriors. They're doubling up South Point in corner opportunities.
I think the athleticism of Western Alamance right now is starting to show here in the second half. They've controlled the pace of play so far in the second half and really putting this pressure on South Point. South Point just trying to withstand it and wait for their opportunity to try to even up this match.
It's kind of fitting in a way that Athis starts the scoring here tonight because she was big in that extra time, the penalty kick situation in that Dixon match. The win that got Western Alamance in. Athis drew a foul and got the penalty kick with 2:52 left in that first of the 10-minute overtime periods. And even Athis said she stayed calm, knew that she and the rest of her team have practiced those penalty kicks plenty. And she went out there and got it done, and that's what got the Warriors here. Athis was a big part of that, and she owns the lone goal of the night so far in the match to win it all. This one bounces harmlessly away out of the territory of Goodwin.
Allison Thomas trying to pitch it ahead to Kaffenberger.
56 minutes in.
Way too far.
Yeah. Not quite an hour in, D, but we're getting there. 56 minutes in.
Western just controlling possession, the pace of play here in the second half.
See, that's again another chance for the back line to do their thing. Hannah Throvtrup up there for South Point.
And the throat trip stopped it, but it's going to be another corner kick.
That's right.
For Western Alamance, and eventually all these corner kicks, one may find a spot in your defense and put you more of a deficit.
7th corner kick of the match for the Warriors. 7-3 advantage in corner kicks. That's touched by Goodwin on the high leap. She got up every inch that she could to get a paw on it. Consequently, the Red Raiders can take a breath for a moment and get back to work, trailing by just a goal. You never like to think back on what could have been. That pretty much applies to anything in life. But Lewandowski, it was interesting towards the end of our conversation earlier this week. I somehow, although maybe not so much somehow as inevitably, we got back to last year's heartbreak for South Point in about as heartbreaking of a fashion as you could imagine. The loss in penalty kicks to Jacksonville, and even Lewandowski. Here we are a year, almost to the day, a year and change after May of 2024, and even Lewandowski now thinks that he should have changed his penalty kick lineup against Jacksonville. Even though that match is as in the history books as you can get, he somehow wandered into that at the end of our conversation earlier this week, and he said, look,
that's a coach being a coach.
He's still thinking about it, Damon. He said, look, that was our 3rd or 4th overtime game in the playoffs. I guess, just didn't think about it all the way. Maybe he was a little overtime weary at that point, but like you said earlier, you lose in the championship match, no matter how it happens, it'll haunt you one way or the other. But, of course, we're not at that point yet. There's still plenty of time for South Point to jump right back in. Certainly Western Alamance feeling just fine right now.
It's going to take South Point trying to dribble it ahead. You're not going to be able to dribble completely up the pitch through the defense. You're going to have to make a long pass, a long touch ahead and try to break down the defense that way. Right now you're making a substitution.
Yeah, Gianna Watkins coming out.
Watkins, one of your more speedy players coming off the pitch. At some point, South Point will have to take risk offensively.
It's about as close as we've seen Markey be involved to the action so far in the second half. She had some support from a teammate down low. Now again to the hands, and on the drop goes Markey to corral it.
Gotta have sure hands there.
No kidding.
Camden Markey, that ball gets away from you. You're looking at a 1-1 soccer match.
We'll remind you, fans, that you don't have to miss another game. You can subscribe to the NFHS Network. You can watch those live and on-demand games, event coverage, game replays, highlights, everything. That is touched by the paw of Goodwin to keep it out. Not sure if it would have stayed true anyway, but it was an honest effort for Western Alamance off the foot of Kenna Kaffenberger. And again, credit the mitts of Isabella Goodwin.
Well, the ball had eyes, but wouldn't have counted had it gone in. Possession is going to go over to South Point. Again, keeping it a 1-0 deficit, giving yourself a chance to tie it up.
Millions of athletes, thousands of games, one destination, NFHSnetwork.com. It's your home for high school sports. Can be with us the entirety of tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. We'll play till about 8 o'clock tomorrow to crown three more champions on Saturday.
It's gonna go past 8 o'clock. You already know.
It has before.
We'll have 1 or 2 overtime matches tomorrow. We'll get out of here around 10 o'clock.
We both got
That's the way it goes.
We both got a long drive for a change after tomorrow night.
Oh, yes, we do.
But you've got the closer hotel room tonight. You got me beat by about 25 minutes.
I do. I really do.
That's it.
And it's a Bojangles up the street. What could be better?
And you've got your buffet breakfast in the morning.
What could be better? Shouts out to Corey.
Yes.
With the last minute clutch, like MJ fadeaway. Braun in 16 coming back in 3-1.
Are you talking about all of that, and now something of the negative nature. That's going to be a penalty on Kaylee Lee.
Maybe having a bit of discussion from Callie Athas, who scored that goal for Western Alamance, trying to, plead her case.
I mean, those two are as thick as thieves, Damian. You know that if Lee goes out, Athas is going to be the first one to her defense. But for the moment, you've lost Lee, and that's a yellow card on unsportsmanlike
that's old yellow, so
contact and conduct on Lee. Charlotte Smith back in for South Point.
maybe this is the opportunity that South Point needs to try to come up with the equalizer.
Now that yellow card, a minute 17 past the 1 hour mark, with 18:44 left in regulation. And South Point try to feed on that as they look for the equalizer.
Well, the head official had been warning both ball clubs, like, hey, you guys got to tone it down. It's really aggressive out there on the pitch. Competitive nature of athletes. Lee a little bit too competitive, receiving that yellow card.
Free kick now for South Point, so might possibly be witnessing the momentum change. It hasn't officially on the scoreboard yet, but there's a lot that leads up to that change on the board. Inevitably, the Red Raiders were going to challenge. Could it be now with under 18 minutes left in regulation play? Free kick from Samantha Lewandowski. Two defenders get in close to Throvetrup.
Another side throw in here for South Point, but finally trying to put some pressure on the defense of Western. Chance here.
It's rolled right to Markey, who again handles it.
Gobbled up by Camden Biz Marquis.
We've got our nickname.
Oh, she's handling her biz.
She is.
Clean sheet thus far.
She is. Clean sheet in the final match of the year. Getting set now to come back in is Gianna Watkins. Watkins, someone to look for next year, in the words of her head coach, Rich Lewandowski, and you said it too, Dee, usually the fastest player on the pitch, but her scoring output has gone up. She improved her touch in the fall with Rich. They've worked a lot on that. She's perfecting her craft, and it's led her to a chance to win a title with her team.
Watkins back in, as well as Kaylee Lee for Western Alamance. Allison Thomas checks out for Lee. I just think that some of this speed and athleticism for Western has been the difference here in the second half, especially with their top goal scorers.
Two defenders trying to track down the speedy Alice Bass, and it's a yellow card, the second in the second half on Western Alamance. And they'll lose another player to a yellow card penalty. In now is Rebecca Cuevas to replace her.
Yeah, Oda have young body parts, because Allison Bass took a dive directly on her right shoulder. At my ripe old age, that's a dislocation waiting to happen.
She just shakes it off.
Pops right back up.
Pops right back up. Free
Now,
kick.
Chance here for South Point to continue to try to come up with that equalizer.
Pretty good free kick from L. Louise Blee, up for the taking. Warriors direct it back towards the midline. In there with the kick is Rodenberger, trying to give her team a chance. Watkins in the middle of it, tied up close to Kennedy Vaughn. It'll stay down here with the Red Raiders.
Vaughn loses it out of bounds, and side throw in here for South Point.
Now the assistant coach of South Point, Jace Bass. So Alice Bass certainly in the attention of Jace Bass there under Coach Lewandowski, along with Lila Hucks and Amy Guantz. Watkins up ahead. Can she get back to it? Here she goes. Watkins puts it up, but out of the reach of Smith, and now it's back towards Markey.
The touch, just out of touch for Charlotte Smith. I saw the vision from Watkins. Just a bit too far for Smith to get to.
It's not a coincidence. Charlotte and Phoebe, both sisters.
I mean, you can't really tell them apart.
No. Back line now to the support of Markey. Warriors back to it. Kaylee Lee. Defender falls. That's Maynard who took a spill. Warriors trying to capitalize, looking to extend their lead. Good defense there to take it away from Athens, who's back in by Lucy Rodenberger.
And this is the thing, Kaylee Athens is big.
She is.
For soccer standards. So it's hard to get her off her mark when she's going full speed. So those backline defenders for South Point having a difficult time right now with Kaylee Athens.
Thomas in.
Only a sophomore.
For Emma Shamra. I know, you look around a lot of these state finals teams and you see how many of their great players
freshmen and sophomores.
Are freshmen and sophomores. The state of women's soccer in North Carolina for a high school, very strong. That one's taken care of by Goodwin.
And Kennedy Vaughn tried to sneak one past. Isabella Goodwin keeping her team in it. Still 1-0.
Yeah, the interesting case of those Smith sisters, their stats actually could look a lot different than they do. As Markey with the goal kick, but even Lewandowski was honest with us and told us the stats are a little different because, you know, starters were out of the game 7 or so minutes into those non-conference matches. He just didn't let a lot of his starters linger too long, especially in the non-conference portion of the season, talking about South Point. But, you know, Charlotte, he even said for Charlotte Smith, if he had left her in for a lot more minutes, she would probably have 20 goals. Phoebe would probably have about 30. So that's the only reason why those numbers might look a little different and a little off to some, considering the fact that those two are really at the very top of the conversation when you're discussing South Point, as Phoebe Smith, 20 goals, and then Charlotte Smith with just 9. So that's the reason for that.
Good touch ahead from Krill to Charlotte Smith. Gets it in the box to Watkins. Chance here for Krill.
You know, Watkins at least stopped it for a moment to try to free up somebody.
MVP of this match. I know that Callie Athens scored the goal for Western, but the job that Napier is doing
it's
on Krill, like that was Krill's first opening really to try to get a shot on goal, and Napier right next to her, hugged up on her like my son is hugged up on his mama. I'm pretty sure right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because he's a mama's boy.
Well, you know, it's no shame in that. It's yeah, talking from probably the worst offender in the world right here. Yours truly is, and I'm still there, 34 years old. But the thing about it is the ages-old question in sports. It's been around forever. Could you award an MVP to a defensive player? She might be, Napier might be making a case for that. Of course, at the moment, it'd be hard to take that away from Athens, but like you said, Napier's got a point. 11 minutes to go in regulation. We're starting to get down to those final 10 as we near that 70th minute.
If you get under the 10-minute mark, if you're South Point, you start to look at the clock, especially if, you unfortunately were able to keep it as close as 1-0. You're going to start looking at that clock. If you give up another goal, you're really going to be pressing.
There was something brewing there initially for Kaylee Lee. Kind Kind of had her route disturbed there and wasn't able to keep that going. Showed off some nice footwork. Free kick upcoming now for the Warriors. Allison Thomas.
Chance here. Western.
70 minutes in, and the Warriors lead in the 3A championship match over South Point 1-0. We've reached the final 10 of regulation.
Western Alamance has the dilemma. Do you continue to stay aggressive with the 1-0 lead, or do you try to run out some of this clock, at least 5 or 6 minutes, get it under that 5-minute mark? Not playing so aggressive on the offensive end, knowing that you have this lead.
Last year, South Point 18-3-2. And that heartbreaker against Jacksonville, a match that was scoreless in regulation time and ultimately stayed scoreless through a couple of overtime periods. And that's why we had to have penalty kicks decide it. That was their second straight year in the 3A title. Then you go back to 2023 when South Point was 22-1-3. And in the title match, fell to Eastern Alamance 4-0.
Western has just controlled the pace of play, especially here in this second half. Got off to a great start in the first 10 minutes in the second half and have really controlled this last 40 minutes.
Louise Blee there to try to send it back for South Point. Red Raiders' time is ticking, under 8.5 to go. Kaffenberger serves it up. Too far and too tall, and controlled by Goodwin.
Callie Athas wanted that pass more towards the middle of the box, and Kaffenberger hit it towards that left corner. No chance here for South Point. Will they get an opportunity with a shot on goal?
Gianna Watkins, we keep saying her name. Watkins gets upturned. Tripped up by Mia Napier.
Yeah, I think Watkins trying to work her way back towards the middle of the pitch. And I think that they called Creel for pushing Napier into Watkins. Again, Mia Napier, gritty defender.
Yeah.
Not going to show up in the stat sheets. Doesn't have a goal on the season, but getting it done in the state championship game.
Napier, 4 assists on the season, 14 total points. 5 goals for Napier. Not one of those that'll jump to the top. Certainly her defensive skills dominated the part of the conversation here tonight, especially since Athens scored that goal. Red Raiders trying to get freed up. Maybe it'll happen now here with Taylor Culbertson. Culbertson slid in too by Rebecca Cuevas.
Cuevas is trying to break up that offensive attempted set there from South Point.
This is not a bad spot, Dean.
Not a bad spot defensively for
a
Western.
Free kick.
I mean, you get a free kick, but Western has done a good job of bottling up the best offensive players for South Point. Let's see what they do here. Red Raiders need a goal.
Claire Hawk. Little start and stop, and then commits on top of the goal. The leap by Markey for good measure, but it'll stay 1-0 Western Alamance.
Just a bit high from Hawk.
We're seeing the replay on our big board right now. Hawk really started her drive into the free kick D, then she stopped it like Tiger used to pause his driver, and Hawk did that. Then she, on the second run up, struck it, but she wanted that just to be angled down a fraction to try to get it in between the bar and also the keeper, Markey, but it didn't happen.
Almost under 5 minutes here. You're going to see South Point here taking all the chances here as they try to come up with the equalizer. And when you do take those chances, you create holes in your defense. If you give up that second goal, it's going to be awfully tough for the Red Raiders.
Just past the 75th minute. We're under 5 minutes to go in the 3A fight. The Warriors with that Athis goal still holding on to it, leading 1-0. Rodenberger gets it back to Goodwin, now with the goal kick. It kind of hangs a bit, and Thomas was in the middle of it. Now back to the midline where Watkins battles for possession, and Bridget Booth, already a cast on her left arm. She goes down right on the midline.
A little shove there from Jayana Watkins.
That's salt in the wound is what that is.
Yeah, but that cast.
I know.
On the left forearm.
Free kick for the Warriors from that spot. Thomas with the free kick. This one is a good one, right towards Goodwin, but gave Isabella Goodwin time to gauge it. Touched no one. From free kick right to the keeper. 3:45 left. Watch it. It hangs up for a moment for Kaylee Lee.
And for South Point, they hadn't really had a chance to get a solid shot on Cam Biz Marquis here throughout this entire match, let alone the second half. So Marquis just hanging out back there. And if you can get a good scoring chance and try to catch her by surprise, hadn't had a lot of work on that back end.
Charlotte Smith, 3 minutes left. Western Alamance going for the boys and girls soccer sweep. They won it in November, trying to win it here in May. First time ever for the Warriors in the state final match. Trying to finish things up 1-for-1 when they get into the championship match. Wouldn't that be something?
They're
2.5 to
soccer
go.
Supremacy.
They are.
It will reside at Western Alamance High School if South Point can't come up with a goal here in the last 2:23 here.
Western Alamance High School in Elon, North Carolina, just to the east of Greensboro. Meanwhile, the closest of the two teams, South Point out of Belmont. Foul will be on Mia Napier. Time of the essence, under 2 minutes to go, so Culbertson waving things along. Louise Blee with the free kick. This one just out of the reach of Watkins with Vaughn there step for step.
Now you see tired legs from South Point as we approach the minute mark here in this second half. And right now you're in the driver's seat if you're Western Alamance. Don't do anything crazy. Play solid defensively. Do what Mia Napier has done all match long. The senior Mia Napier, like the job that she's done on the defensive end, you can't say enough about Napier for Western Alamance.
Markey with the goal kick. 90 seconds left in regulation. South Point needs a goal for the equalizer.
Well, just as a team defense for Western Alamance has been stout this entire match, and South Point has yet to figure out the right pieces to fit in that puzzle. And they're seeing the seconds tick away on what could potentially be another heartbreaking state championship loss.
Third straight year in the finals for South Point. They're trailing by a goal, under a minute left.
And right now, Western Alamance in no hurry, just kicking it out of bounds, kicking it away, just trying to melt the clock off.
Goodwin's going to lay this over. She will not have the goal kick. This will be Hannah Throvtrup, but that just took about 10 extra seconds off the clock, which is already skinny as it is, 35 seconds and counting. Got to go now. If you're South Point, trying not to be disappointed for the third year in a row, 20 seconds remaining.
16, 15, and South Point trying desperately to put another run together.
We're under 10 seconds to go. Now 5 seconds left. And that should do it. Western Alamance, a soccer sweep. The boys won it in November. The girls wanted it. They said it's our time now. And Camden Brooks, a champion head coach as well. Western Alamance wins it, the 3A championship over South Point.
Western Alamance did it with defense against a team who uses defense as their calling card. Western, outstanding defense this entire match. And being aggressive offensively, didn't come up with a ton of opportunities, but the best one from Callie Athas, top right corner, proves to be the game winner.
Yeah, ultimately, Athas, the only goal in this match. 1-0 is the final. You know, for Camden Brooks, what he did in November was an achievement of the highest order to win a men's state soccer final. This is the first ever appearance for Western Alamance in a state final in women's soccer. And as they say, batting 1,000, they're perfect. 1 for 1 when they get to a state final match. And fittingly, the number 1 is also what stands out on the scoreboard. A defensive battle, and the Warriors are going to celebrate in earnest now.
I guess Camden Brooks is going to ask for a raise from his athletic director. When you bring home a state title in the men's and women's soccer in the same season,
yeah,
you got something, you got chips to bargain with at the table if you're a head coach Camden Brooks, and you hate to see the looks on the faces of the South Point players, the same looks as last season and the season before that. You know, at some point, I think the Red Raiders will get over that hump before the seniors like Phoebe and Charlotte Smith, it's going to call it a career for them. 3 state championship appearances, that's a lot to be proud of, but never could get that last win to bring home the state championship.
It's time now for the award ceremony as Western Alamance will receive their championship awards. We will also get the MVP. No doubt a lot of love for head coach Camden Brooks. We'll let you take in the award ceremony now, and then we'll come right back to close things down on our first night of the state finals here in Matthews. Let's go down to the field now.
Number 4, Natalie Peabody. Number 5, Nora Starpelizos. Number 6, Gianna Watman. Number 7, Elitzi Cortez. Number 8, Alice Bass. Number 9, Carrie Gozer. Number 10, Charlotte Smith. Number 11, Eloise Blee. Number 13, Phoebe Smith. Number 14, Grace Maynard. Number 15, Mackenzie Grell. Number 16, Lucy Roddenberger. Number 17, Lily Porter. Number 18, Taylor Culbertson. Number 19, Carson Wilman. Number 20, Ellis Boyd. Number 21, Samantha Lewandowski. And number 22, Hannah Thoffer. this time, we would ask the captains and the head coach of South Point to come forward to receive the state runner-up plaque. And now to present the championship medals for the state champions, the Western Alamance Warriors. Number 00, Camden Markey. Number 1, Emma Charma. Number 2, Bridget Booth. Number 3, Presley Whitfield. Number 5, Mia Napier. Number 7, Rebecca Cuevas. Number 8, Kaylee Lee. Number 9, Callie Evans. Number 10, Allison Thomas. Number 11, Megan McLaughlin. Number 12, Emma Kraniewski. Number 13, Lauren Sweat. Number 14, McKenna Corum. Number 15, Kana Kappenberger. Number 17, Sarah McLaughlin. Number 20, Camila Bentley. Number 25, Kennedy Vaughn. Manager Lana Kuhlman. And manager Diego Verduso Devar. Members of the championship team also received medals from Wells Fargo and championship t-shirts. And now head coach for the Warriors, Cam Brooks, to receive the state championship plaque. At this time, we would ask the captains and the head coach of Western Alamance to come forward to receive the state championship plaque. Outstanding performances in this state championship series, but one player has been selected as the most valuable player based on a vote of media representatives covering this game. The MVP is number 8, Kaylee Lee.